Back. Now today Daybreak has a bit of a different format from what you're used to. When a topic as can I say controversial as the human papillovirus vaccination comes to our studio, sometimes the approach can be different. And for this one, some of our guests requested that we split it into two. And what you just had, Trevor Mbija and a panel having a discussion with a group who are for HPV vaccination. They've given their reasons and answered some of your questions. But now we have a different group or representative of a group on the other end. And these ones are against anti-HPV vaccination. And representing them now is Dr. Ngare, a consultant obstetrician and a gynecologist, to give us some of the reasons as to why they believe that is not the solution to deal with cervical cancer and the method as well. And you can talk to us. 2242 is the SMS line. The hashtag is Daybreak, and I'll be posing your questions to him even as the interview continues. Daktari, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. You've had a chance to listen to what some of the other doctors have had to say, but let me ask you this straight away. What are your major concerns about the HPV vaccine?
The major concern we have about the HPV vaccine is it is not useful. It is a totally useless vaccine. We don't need it at all.
My goodness, okay, you're getting straight to the point. Yes. So the group that was here before quoted clinical trials to back their claims.
Yes.
What is your data?
The best thing when you're dealing with public is basically to go back to first principles. Let's try and educate the public to see whether they can make a good choice. So the first thing we ask is, why do we vaccinate in the first place? So there are three categories of diseases that are infectious. There are diseases that are spread by droplet infection, where you can cough or sneeze and you can get infected, like measles. Now for diseases like those where the population cannot protect itself, then we vaccinate as the primary prevention mode. So we vaccinate all our children against measles. Then there are conditions that we call fecal-oral. These are spread by water, contaminated water, and contaminated food because of not taking good care of sewer systems. Now those are best taken care of from the primary prevention point of view by providing clean drinking water and sanitary systems. These are diseases like polio. But because of the devastating nature of polio, you also supplement that with vaccination. Then you have contagious diseases that are spread sexually. These are diseases that are about choice and behavior. Such diseases, the best form of public health address is behavior change modification. And HPV is a sexually transmitted disease.
So for you, it falls under the last category?
It falls under the last category. So that is just the general introduction. If we come to the question of usefulness, they have quoted statistics.
Yes, World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control in America, etc.
True. If you have the two things that we need to differentiate, there is prevalence of HPV, which means somebody has HPV, okay, because it resides in you, but it's not causing an infection. Then that HPV can cause infection, okay? Now, if you do prevalence studies, if you go and you check how many people have HPV, okay, like the studies that have been done even here in Kenya, you'd find maybe up to 50% of people have the HPV virus, okay? But if you ask how many people has that virus infected, where it is actually causing disease, there is a difference. So what we are worried about is not the prevalence, not the fact that it is there, because HPV has always been there. It's not a new disease. It has always been there. Why hasn't it been a concern before? Because it is not everybody who has it who gets infected. So what you do is you look at how many people end up with persistent disease. So if the whole population is infected with HPV, 99.85% of the population in 3 years would clear that vaccine without any need for treatment or vaccination. This is a WHO statistic.
I was about to ask you who you're quoting,
yes.
Okay?
0.15% of the population is the one that remains with persistent disease. So the cervix of the woman is infected, and there is now a risk of her developing cancer of the cervix.
That's the 0.15%?
0.15%.
Okay.
Now, of this 0.15%, to come from infection of HPV persistence to cancer takes 8 to 10 years, Wahiga. 8 to 10 years before the cancer actually develops. So you're saying if our concern is persistent HPV infection, then what we need to do is determine which woman has the persistent disease and then treat that persistent disease before it becomes cancer. And the routine thing.
And for you, that would be in your view, that's the better way to go about it.
It is the better way to go about it.
But what if you could prevent that woman from never getting it, from never getting to that point where you'd have to check whether she has it or not?
The thing is, you're talking about statistics, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Let us now go to the question of safety of the vaccine. Now, if anybody comes here and tells you that a vaccine or any medication is safe, you know they're not telling you the truth.
Okay,
because even Panadol can make you sick, isn't it?
True, but we still take Panadol?
Yes. So the question then is the risk worth is the benefit worth the risk?
The benefit of
taking the medicine.
But taking the medicine would prevent, ideally, cervical cancer. I think many would say that it's worth the risk.
We will get to that because even the question of whether it prevents cancer is something we shall discuss towards the end. Let's first look at the side effects. And the main thing here we're worried about is the quantity of aluminium in this particular vaccine. Okay? Now, the countries where this vaccination has been rolled out, like in the UK, of all the adverse reactions of vaccines that have been mentioned, the HPV vaccine has the highest rate of adverse reactions. In fact, it has a higher rate than all the other vaccines put together. All right? So we are saying we want to give a vaccine to protect 0.1% of the population, but we want to risk the 99% of the people who are well to these complications in order to save the one.
What are the complications? You've called it adverse effects. Give us examples for our viewers who are not medical staff.
The commonest one is paralysis and premature menopause. Okay? So if you look at...
And you have the data. This is
true.
Data, not you, that you've done, but other independent...
And they even, you see, there are even parents who are in court today, in the UK, in Japan, in Australia, in India, because their children have been harmed by this vaccine. And when they went to be given the vaccine, they had been told it is safe. Okay? So we're saying...
And who are you quoting on that, what you've just said? Who's that you're quoting?
Who? Like what?
The numbers you've just given me, where was that from?
Is the adverse drug reactions of the UK. They have a way you track adverse drug reactions.
Okay.
Yes, so it is there, is public knowledge.
So and this is what I'm trying to resolve. You're giving me these numbers, but internationally respected organizations, WHO, etc., have a completely different story. Why would they be moving in that direction if the dangers you're warning us of are real?
The question is this, you could also ask this, why would I put my reputation at risk?
You as Dr. Ngare here today?
Yes. You see, everybody has a right to an opinion. Even citizen has a right to an opinion. WHO has a right to an opinion. What we must be seeking for is the truth, Wahiga. Let us ask for the truth, because you can push an agenda, you can push for something you believe in.
So you think there is an agenda, you believe there's an agenda being pushed behind all this?
If they feel it is useful, you can see the amount of energy that has been put to this. So if they believe it is useful, they have really put their money to it, isn't it? If today we are saying pap smear can pick up changes that would lead to cancer of the cervix 8 to 10 years before the cancer occurs. And we have seen how much money the government and WHO and others have spent campaigning for this vaccine. If we had used the same amount of energy, every woman in this country today would know the usefulness of a pap smear. 115
countries have allowed this vaccine within their borders. All of them are part of this, have fallen prey to this agenda that you're talking about?
Well, the
claim is happening? Go ahead.
It is very important to ask who generates your data.
Okay.
And what their interest is. Okay? Because I can take the same data you're giving me and I can turn it and flip it around to my advantage, isn't it? So you can play around with figures and you can actually...
So are you disputing the figures or the interpretation of the figures?
It's the interpretation of the figures. And how the usefulness of these figures are to us. Because Wahiga, if 0.15% of the people are the ones who are at risk, and a pap smear would pick this persistent disease 8 to 10 years before the disease. And a very simple treatment of the cervix would actually prevent cancer of the cervix. Why would you put the whole community at risk to receive a vaccine, even if the side effect was a headache?
Let me ask you this, Dr.
Yes.
What do you say to the 9 people who die every day from cervical cancer?
I say I am...
In a world where every life matters.
Yes. I would,
what do you say to them?
I'm very sad and I'm very heartbroken that us as clinicians have not been able to empower the people enough to do what they need to do to take care of their health. It is our failure. It is not the failure of that woman. If you go to Kenyatta today and you see all those women with cancer of the cervix, go and ask them how many of them have done a pap smear in their whole life. Ask them how many know about the pap smear test. And you will understand that the problem is the clinician who has failed by telling people about public health knowledge. It is us who should have told them there is no woman who should die of cancer of the cervix because it is preventable, even without the vaccine. You cannot excuse your failure of a system like that by introducing a vaccine.
But
so you can't wait for people to get infected and die, just so that you can come in and...
But some would then say that, aren't you failing them now by speaking out against a vaccine that could possibly have saved some of their lives?
Let us discuss that since you have brought it up. Mm-hmm. For you to state that this vaccine is a vaccine that would prevent cancer of the cervix.
At least that's what clinical trials have shown from what we've read and what some of our speakers...
That is what is being said, that the HPV vaccine prevents cancer of the cervix. This is a vaccine against HPV. It is not a vaccine against cancer. That statement is deceptive. For you to test if this vaccine can actually prevent cancer, what you need to do is to have 2 cohorts. You have one who doesn't have the vaccine, the other one has a vaccine, and then you follow these people for their lifetime, okay? And then you determine the one who was vaccinated eventually did not get cancer, isn't it? Now, we have just started giving this vaccine in the world in 2006. Today we are 2019. You
feel it's too soon?
It is currently we're in the experiment to determine whether this vaccine will prevent cancer or not. What this vaccine does, it prevents what you would call the precancerous lesion. So it is hoped that by preventing that precancerous lesion, you may actually be able to prevent cancer of the cervix. Now that is a good statement, and it is an accurate statement. It will prevent some precancerous lesions for the virus that is in this vaccine. So, but whether that will eventually translate to preventing cancer,
the debate is still out there.
It's still out there.
If in the next...
It is also important to keep in mind.
Is it not a risk worth taking, Dr. Ari? Some would ask you.
Especially
if 10, 15 years from now, science does truly confirm that HPV does cause cervical cancer, and we fought it all this time.
That is a very dangerous statement. If you allowed drug companies to come and experiment on humans, to do human trials, to determine a question like that before rolling out the drugs, you're going to expose the humanity to very evil things. You cannot use human beings to do a trial like that. If they say this vaccine is to prevent a precancerous lesion and is therefore hoped it will prevent cancer, then they're telling the public the truth. But to say it is a vaccine against cancer of the cervix, it is not true. Now, this particular vaccine has 2 strains of the HPV that are for cancer. The other 2 are for the viral warts, okay? Now, imagine there are 16 other viruses that can cause, that are high risk, isn't it? But we know that the one in this vaccine prevents maybe 70 up to 70% of that particular virus. But is HPV the only cause of cancer of the cervix? The answer is no. So multiple sexual partners is a risk, contraceptives are a risk, early marriage, early sexual debut is a risk, immunosuppression is a risk. All these other factors come into play when you're dealing with cancer. And therefore, even the people who have developed this vaccine are very clear, Waihiga, that even if you get vaccinated against HPV, you must continue doing your pap smears every 3 years. Now, the way the ministry is giving the information, those who are for the vaccine are giving, they're giving it like if you go and you vaccinate your daughter, you should not worry about cancer of the cervix again.
And for you, that is you describe that as incorrect.
If the manufacturer himself says don't stop going for the pap smear, it means that the people should have learned about the pap smear long before they started being vaccinated, because even that child must continue getting their pap smears. The other thing is that so far we know that the vaccine can protect you against for 10 years.
Yes, it's for a limited time period.
So we vaccinate 10-year-olds. It protects them up to 20 years. Majority will still not be sexually active. So you still need to give another booster at
age 20
to continue. Now, why not just wait for these children to get to the age of 18, educate them on how to prevent all STDs? Okay? The best way to prevent all STDs is risk avoidance.
In a world, and I want to, because I don't want you to miss this point, in a world where we're increasingly seeing cases, and it's sad that we have to talk about this on national TV, of children being molested, of teenagers having sex as well, where do they fit into this narrative that you have here today, that wait until 18, some don't have a choice?
The right question, Wahiga, is why is our society that way?
But until we can fix our society, and nobody knows where that
is. You see, you cannot deal with society pessimistically. You cannot...
as a journalist, I'm being realistic with the numbers that we are getting.
That's what you call it realistic. I have a child. I have children. My oldest son is 26 years old. I have a daughter who's 13, and a young man who's 22 in between. I know the risks that there are out there, all right? But I, as a father, and together with my wife as a mother, we have sat with these children and told them the truth about what the risks are out there, isn't it?
Does every child have the benefit of what you're giving your children today?
You see, that's the thing. Why doesn't the education system then take it up and teach values that are basic values, basic moral values? That, you see, if you vaccinate your child against HPV today, what will you do about gonorrhea? What will you do about syphilis? What will you do about chancroid? What will you do about them getting pregnant before they were ready?
I mean, a fair question,
the thing is, you can't narrow down on HPV and decide that that is the only thing you're going to fight. As a country, we have laws that say it is illegal to have sex below 18. It is our business as adults to teach our children that there is value in waiting, that there is value in being responsible. One or two will misbehave, and that one will be treated as delinquent. But you cannot normalize that kind of behavior.
Is the framing of the HPV vaccine the key issue? Or for you, you have multiple challenges where you've talked about it not being, and when you began, you said it's not useful.
True.
Is it the way it was brought? Is it the way it was presented?
The thing is this, let's now come down to me as a parent. Forget that I'm a doctor. I am being told that my daughter has a risk of getting HPV infection, okay, which is a sexually transmitted disease. And if I vaccinate her against HPV, I may be able to prevent the risk of her getting cancer of the cervix, isn't it? So the question then is, as a father, how would she get HPV? It will be sexually transmitted. Okay, so there is, I don't know. I have trained my children. I don't know whether they will follow that path, isn't it? Every parent
everyone has their mind to.
Yes. So then the question would be, what if she does get infected with HPV? The chance that her body will clear it off is 99%, isn't it? And if she goes for a pap smear every 3 years, then the changes that would lead to cancer can be detected and treated before cancer establishes. That is the fact.
That is an ideal scenario.
Then you come and you tell me, if I give her the vaccine, these are the possible side effects, all right? These are the possible side effects, okay? Now, what I'm going to do as a father is, I will weigh these possible side effects that can affect my daughter who is healthy now and make her unhealthy because of the side effects. And taking that 99%, 0.15% risk, and waiting for her to be an adult to establish herself and to determine whether this is of value for her. Because remember, up to 20 years, they are protected maybe up to 20 years, isn't it? I would take the chance that I will not risk her life now. and her health now.
Is it fair to speak about risking lives, Daktari? Because, I mean, I read a lot of studies yesterday. Whether the long-lasting nature of these side effects, many are said to be temporal. Side effects are a common aspect of any drug regime or any treatment as well. Risking lives, I feel, is rather extreme.
You know, the same way you were told about go to Kenyatta and see women who have cancer of the cervix. You go into the internet and look for children who have been affected by this vaccine.
On which reputable websites would you send me to? Because there are a lot of blogs out there I can't remember the name. There is a whole organization of parents in Britain of children who have been affected by HPV. Is a caucus of parents whose for you to be a member, you have to have a child who has been affected. And they're telling their stories. There is they've made a video clip that is called Sacrificial Virgins. I don't know whether they've had a chance to see it. No, just...
Sacrificial Virgins. It has part 1, part 2, part 3. All those are about children who were completely healthy before. Then they were given the HPV vaccine.
By qualified practitioners?
Sorry?
By qualified practitioners, because we also know that some get a HPV vaccine from unqualified.
No, the HPV vaccine is once you inject it, the rest of the reactions are independent of who gives it. It's not about how it is administered.
In the conditions and whether in the right way or not.
Let me just tell you a bit about the studies.
Briefly, please.
The studies that had been done, some of those studies for safety that had been done.
Yes.
The question that has been there is a question of why is it that there seems to be more side effects recorded after the safety the safety trials? So if you look at the safety trials, you find there are not as many side effects as what is appearing when it starts being administered. Okay, like Japan the Japanese government did exactly what our government did. It sanctioned, supported, vaccines were given. It had to stop the vaccination because of the adverse drug reactions. The question is why?
They officially stopped?
Yes, they officially stopped. Japan officially stopped.
Because what I saw yesterday was that it has been a success story in Japan. I don't know.
What they did in Japan is that the government withdrew its support. So now you get it if you want, just like
also, it's not mandatory anymore.
Yes, but it was mandatory before when they established. And then when children started getting sick, they withdrew the support. And therefore parents are allowed to go if they wish to go. So what happened with the trials, they selected the clients who would go for the trials very carefully. So people who have had previous drug reactions to vaccines were excluded. They excluded people who have autoimmune diseases. There were very many exclusion criteria.
Anything that could be a reason as to why you had that adverse reaction, you were removed from that experiment.
Now, when you come to the real world and you come and vaccinate mass, that exclusion is not being done anymore. So it is no longer the risks factors that they had minimized during the trials are not there now. Okay, so that is thought to be contributing to part of that problem. Now, some of the trials. I told you it is aluminium that is a concern in this vaccine, okay? Some of the trials, what they did is when you do a study like this, what you do is you give one group the vaccine and you call that the test group. And then when you do the other one, the other group, what you do, you give them what you'd say is an inert something, like water for injection or something that doesn't have the active ingredients you're worried about. But some of these trials, they actually gave HPV vaccine to the test group, and they gave aluminium to the trial group.
Aluminium in what?
In the same format like it would appear in the vaccine.
And what were the results?
So you see, if 3 people die in this group, and 3 people die in this group, and you read these results, then the adverse reactions are similar.
Okay.
Therefore, you can say it is safe.
Very, very fascinating, Master Daktari, and I hope next time you bring those links so that I can have a chance.
I'll be able to send
I want to give you a final word. Do we have any feedback? I know some viewers may have had questions. Let me read the questions and I'll give Daktari a chance for a last word because I know some viewers may have questions. Okay, no name, but say the best way to prevent HPV-related diseases is through vaccination. 9 women are dying in Kenya each day from cervical cancer. Why wait to treat cancer when you can prevent these diseases? And I've already posed that question to Daktari here. Okay, Reverend Karimba from Isiolo, you say, Mora, with all due respect to the consultant, Dr. Ngare, that discussion is not for the public, but for the consultants. Why do they disagree in public? What message are they giving us? Okay. No name, but to say, Dr. Ngare, please give us strong, verifiable evidence published on the paralysis cases you speak of. Also, Dr. you're noting this, also strong evidence to show that HPV is the one that has the biggest amount of side effects, okay? That one he will respond to. Onyiso, we understand well that anything in this world has advantages and also disadvantages as well. Dr. you're trying to explain the bad side of the vaccine. Do you think the vaccine also has an advantage, the one being vaccinated, according to your opinion, okay? Last one, no name again, but to say people in slums, drunkards, etc., do they have time for their children? People who are hustling out there, do they care what children are doing? How many children don't have fathers or mothers who don't care? Think of the population down there. It's by the grace of God. Okay. Sorry, Dr. our time is almost up. 4 questions there. Someone has asked for proof on your claims of paralysis and HPV having the most side effects.
I'll send you those links.
You send me those links. Yes. But in a nutshell, how would you respond to the viewer on those?
The thing is, the fact that I did not come with them doesn't mean they don't exist. Okay. So it is.
But it leaves us with questions.
It is okay. The thing is that all of us can go and search for this information. So long as you are directed and you know what you're looking for, it is available. For the parents in the UK to get this information, they had to actually sue the government to release. These are government documents. And it is public that you can actually, just like Kenya, if it is public government information, you can actually ask for it. That's how they got those documents.
So and they publish them on their site.
Yes, but you can't get them. It is not in a study or something that you can go and find.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is there. It is real. The Wahiga, what I would like to say is this: it is true that we have a challenge as a country in as far as sexuality and other issues are concerned. But vaccination is not the way to solve it, okay? It is also very important that parents are given a balanced opinion, okay? The reason why I didn't go into whether it has benefits or not is because there's
one of the questions, yes?
There's a whole team here telling you about the benefits, isn't it? And I came and I tell you
to go and watch that interview.
So the thing is that now they have both sides of the story. And it is therefore possible for you to make informed choices. It is the informed choice that matters. It's very wrong to patronize people. Just because I'm a doctor and I tell you something is safe and is good for you, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take that home. It is very important that you also have a responsibility to check and see that what is being said is true. So if we are guided by the truth, what I would do about all STDs is we would have very strong public awareness campaigns, starting from primary school, to tell our children. And that's how we have succeeded with HIV. Yes? You tell our children that the gift of sexuality is a good gift, but it also comes with responsibilities. And we need to be able to handle this matter carefully.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the beginning for any sexually transmitted disease.
For you, that is the approach that you would use.
Yes.
But there are those who say that even when a doctor tells you something is good, they could also be right. There are those on the other end who say that.
Yes,
Thank you.
And we end up with an informed decision. That is the most important thing. So for me, measles, vaccinate everyone. Polio, vaccinate. HPV, behavior change modification.
Tetanus?
Sorry?
Tetanus?
Tetanus.
Vaccinate?
Yes, vaccinate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Ngare, consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, wrapping up our, do I call it a 2-part discussion this morning on the human papilloma virus, a very controversial topic, as you can see. We've had the first group and they gave their opinion, and I think that video should already be on YouTube by now. And Dr. Ngare joined us for the other side, those who have questions and concerns about the HPV virus. And this is a concern for many parents from what we've seen from our online feedback as well. Keep forwarding your questions. If he can't respond to some of them here, because our time is up, we'll be able to forward them as well. And the same discussion, I believe, should also be happening on our Radio Citizen today as well. We take a quick break. You're watching Daybreak. Stay with us. So much more with Willis Raburu when we return.